TRP students? Thank you for hitting play. I know, you got a lot of stuff you could be looking at on your phone or your tablet or your computer. So the fact that you're here watching this, thank you. Stick around. We've been talking about the creation story for the past couple of weeks together, and admittedly, this is me admitting to you that we've gotten kind of nerdy, okay? I can admit that. We've been thinking about how we are supposed to read Genesis 1, whether it's literal or poetic, whether it depicts a view of the world that we know from science or not. We've also talked about just how to read the Bible in general. All of the things that we bring with us when we open up our Bibles, things like our experience, our education, our background, the things that our parents or our Sunday school teachers have taught us along the way. All of that impacts how we read the Bible. And then last week, I talked about other stories from the ancient world that in some ways look a lot like Genesis. In other ways, they are very dissimilar from Genesis, and it helps us to understand what the author of Genesis 1 is trying to teach us about God and the world and people. Now, this week is going to be a lot different, okay? So just deep breath. Feet firmly planted on the ground. You're gonna be okay here. We're not going nerdy. This is personal, all right? There's one thing in the creation story from Genesis 1 that I come back to pretty often, and it's this. I am made in the image and likeness of God. And so are you. This is what the text says. At the very end of the creative process, after God has formed the world and filled it with animals and plants and trees and stars, God said, let us make mankind, humankind would be a better translation there. Let us make humankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and the livestock and all of the wild animals and over all of the creatures that move along the ground. Now, there might be a couple things in there that grab you, like who is God talking to? Let us make humankind in our image. That's weird, right? And you may have heard that this is an early version of the Trinity. This is God talking to the Holy Spirit and Jesus. Probably not, okay? But let's just put all of that off to the side because it's really dealing with some ancient concepts. And we're not getting nerdy today, okay? So God, it says in this passage again, created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Now here's a question. Do you ever doubt yourself? I do. I tend to think the worst about any given situation. So the past year for me has been pretty not cool. But let me give you a story here. One time when I was 10, I was playing in a state championship baseball game, and our team was losing 2-1. I actually started pitching this game too, so I was on the hook for a loss, and our team was about to lose the state championship. It was the bottom of the last inning. We had the tying run on third base, and the best player on our team was up to bat. He was so good, in fact, that later on, after high school and college, he was drafted by the Texas Rangers. Okay, so this guy was a stud. And I was on deck. I was up after him, which means that I was going to potentially have a chance to tie or win the game if my friend did not come through. Now, this was a pressure-filled situation for little 10-year-old me, and I'm standing on deck looking at my friend, praying that he would do something to tie the game and to take the pressure off of me, but he didn't. He actually made the second out of the inning. So now there's 2 outs in the bottom of the last inning, tying run on third base, and it's my turn to hit. This is the stuff of every kid's dreams. Every time you throw a ball in the backyard, you create a scenario in the bottom of the last inning with 2 outs and the tying or winning run on third base, and you get the chance to be the hero. But guess what I did when this is real life? This isn't in the backyard. This is actually my chance to be a hero. Guess what I did? I started to cry immediately, right there in the on deck circle. And I sort of just shuffled to the plate and I was dragging my bat and I was crying. And then guess what I did? I grounded out to the pitcher. We lost. The only saving grace here is that I didn't strike out, but still, I wasn't in it. I was defeated before I got up there. I just grounded out to the pitcher. I'm crying as I'm running to first base. They threw me out. We lost the game. I cried the whole way home. So if you ever feel bad about yourself, if you ever don't believe in your own greatness, I get it. Okay, and I wish I could tell you that when I got older, everything clicked and I learned how to believe in myself, but I didn't. So I come back to this passage in Genesis a lot. I have been created in the image and likeness of God. And so have you. Middle school and high school, it's a hard time. In fact, a friend of mine just did one of those cheesy Facebook survey things where you answer a bunch of questions about a time in your life, and it usually takes you back to high school. One of the questions was, would you ever want to go back to high school? And she very quickly and adamantly said, not in a million years, because it's hard. It's weird, and you're just trying to figure out who you are and what you want to do and maybe who you want to date and if they want to date you, and if they don't, then you have to navigate all of those feelings. Middle school and high school is just a hard time of trying to figure out what in the world is going on. But listen, you have been created in the image and likeness of God. And in Genesis, it doesn't say this just so that we won't cry in the on-deck circle, or when the person that we like doesn't like us back, or when we have no idea who we are or what we're good at or what we're supposed to do with our lives. It actually says that when God created people in the image and likeness of God, He gave them a job to do, to care for the world. Originally, it was to rule in God's place over everything. We were created, in a sense, to be kings and queens. It's almost like when God made people, He believed in them. So here's two things that I want you to consider here. Again, not nerdy. This is just theological ruminations from an almost 40-year-old pastor who has lived a long enough time trying to figure out who in the world he is. First, the obvious from this text. You, in all of your uniqueness, in all of your unpredictability, in all of your uncertainty and self-doubt about who you are, in all of your questions, in the midst of the weirdness of middle school and high school, you are an image bearer of the Most High God. And this same God believes in you. I know, because we usually just downplay anybody believing in us at this point in our lives, and maybe even beyond if you're anything like me. And now we have the creator of the entire cosmos creating us to be an image bearer, a likeness of Himself to the world, and He believes in us. Second, and this is just as important, I'm an image bearer. And so are your parents and your friends and your teachers and the kid who picks his nose in the back of the class and he doesn't think anybody notices, but you all do. And the person who has made your life miserable at school, either by picking on you or bullying you or anything like that, or the girl who is going after your man, or the boy who started that rumor about you, or the kid who threatens to beat you up all the time. All of these people are created in the image and likeness of God. Do you see? This passage, it's about you, but it's about everybody else too. And that should change how we view the world and the people in the world. Now, yes, absolutely, you're correct. If some punk kid is out there starting rumors about you or going after your man or trying to beat you up or bully you, I mean, call them on it. because that's garbage and that kind of stuff shouldn't happen. Now, the problem is when we forget that even if these people are making wrong choices, if we forget that they were created to be image bearers too, when we forget that, that's when we start drawing those lines between the in crowd and the out crowd. That's when we start ranking people. That's when we start forgetting that God loves them too. And if you've noticed, our world is pretty fractured right now. We've got a lot of people ranking certain types of folks as the in crowd or the out crowd, and we've forgotten that we've got people who are created in the image and likeness of God. Now, here's what I want you to try. I want you to try believing in yourself. I want you to try believing that God made you just as you are, with all of your interests and your talents and all of your, just the way that you are you. I want you to try believing that God made you in this way. I want you to try believing that God has made you in His image and likeness. And I want you to try believing that this is true of everybody else too. Because when you do, I think that you'll start to see things as they really are. So you see, we don't have to get nerdy about the Bible. I love it. That's who God has created me to be, and I am an image bearer of that God. But sometimes when we strip all of that away and we get down to its core principles, what we learn in the Bible is that we are created just as we are, to be an image of God in the world, and that we need to remember that about the people in our lives as well.